All right, welcome back to the Swampy Sports Podcast. This is week 9 of college football, and we're here to discuss all the big games we have this week. And I think this is the week we have probably the most ranked, top 25 ranked games going on this week that will eventually impact the Final Four coming up pretty soon. It's really sad to think that's coming up pretty soon. But I'm joined always with my brother, James Douglas Marsh.
What's going on, y'all? It sucked I wasn't on the podcast last week, but I'm excited to be on this one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start off with, I'm going to go ahead and talk about this. I'll bring this one in. I'm really excited about this game just because I'm excited that Navy is in the top 25 this year.
Dylan. So y'all know, we both went 5-5 last week with our picks, and my record is now 34-17, while Dylan's is 31-20.
Well, guess what? After this week, I will be up.
You have been saying that for the past.
Well, guess what? It takes a winner's mentality to win. So let's get this going so I can kick your butt. All righty then.
All right, you can go first. Navy at South Florida, Friday night.
All right, yeah. Like I was saying, I'm very excited for Navy, I guess you can say, because you don't ever see a school, like a military school, doing very well. And with Navy doing what they're doing, beating Houston, they're now ranked number 22. But coming into this game in South Florida's got an offense and a quarterback that's just killing it right now. Because Quentin Flowers, 117 for 200 attempts. 1,700 passing yards already, 15 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions. And I'm very scared for the midshipmen on the football field, at least, just because of how dangerous the South Florida offense is. They also have a 700-yard rusher already, and Quentin Flowers, the quarterback, basically
doing it all.
Yeah, and he's also the leading receiver on the team. He catches all of his own passes, but and no one's talking about him in the Heisman. What the heck? But no, I'm joking. But what I like about Navy is I love the formation that they run. I was actually talking to a friend in Oklahoma named okay, I'm not going to say his name. I'll say his name is Halibut. His name is Halibut, and we were talking about he's in the Navy, or he was in the Navy, and we were talking about how well Navy's doing and why a lot of the military teams don't do well. And he said he brought up the thought of, have you thought about the reason why they run those offenses? And he said it's because that's the offense you have to be the most disciplined in. And that brought to my I was like, okay, I never thought. I just thought it was just they wanted to keep the old school type of mentality into it. But no, if you think about it, the wing T formation and the triple option, that is the most difficult offense to learn as a student and to coach as a coach. And you have so many assignments on every play. You have to know what's going on or the whole play is just messed up. So
trust me, I know. I ran it in high school.
You're a receiver into wing T.
But, I mean, I know how much goes into that offense.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to stop if it's run efficiently.
Yeah, I understand everything you're saying. I'm just messing with you, dude. But like I was saying, it's how disciplined they are, and I like that, especially this Navy team. And that's how they beat Houston. They beat Houston because they didn't commit a lot of penalties, but Houston actually committed, I think it was 7 penalties for close to 150 yards that game, which was insane. A lot of them were unsportsmanlike, which I wouldn't think Tom Herman would accept that with his players against his Naval Academy. And if you don't know, the kids who play for Navy have to serve 4 years in their branch of the military, I think is what it is. 4 years. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to choose South Florida just for the record's sake, but I really hope Navy wins this football game. I think Quentin Flowers is going to be too much for the Navy defense for sure, but I'm taking them. They are the spread is +8, and
it's 7.5 in favor of South Florida.
See, I just don't. You know that stuff better than I do, but it just hurts me to say South Florida because I love what Navy's doing. But you never know.
It's supposed to be a very high-scoring game as the
It should.
over-under is 63.
And this is like the first time I've seen in a while that both quarterbacks are the leading rusher for their team. So, but you gotta think about that with, Navy. The quarterback has 133 carries on the year. So,
Yeah.
All right, who do you got, friend?
I'm going to go Navy on the sole fact of their offense. I believe that they can move the ball pretty much on anybody because they have a lot of speed at those wingbacks and the quarterback also. And, I mean, it looks like from the statistics that they can actually throw the ball when they want to. But it's going to be a very high-scoring game. But I believe Navy's defense will come to play and stops that South Florida offense and Flowers from being able to do what they do efficiently, and give me Navy in this game.
All right, so let's go ahead and go on to the next one, friend.
All right, the next one we have will be the number 10 West Virginia Mountaineers, who are 6-0, traveling to Stillwater to take on the Oklahoma State Cowboys.
All right, taking on the Pokes, we got the Mountaineers versus the Pokey Poke people, and it's at Oklahoma State. And I used to work at Boone Pickens Stadium for a catering company. So, and if you haven't been to Boone Pickens Stadium, I don't think you understand how, you hear people talk about it, but I don't think you understand how loud those paddles are against the wall. Those things are deafening. And so every time I see Oklahoma State at home, I always take home field advantage into effect for sure. So, West Virginia is killing it right now, 6-0. Got a quarterback with 1,800 passing yards already. Skyler Howard, 12 touchdowns, 1,821 yards, only 4 picks on the year.
What I don't understand why nobody's talking about him for the Heisman.
Because I've never heard of him.
I mean, I knew about him coming in this year, but his numbers are tremendous, and I believe that. I think it's just because of the sole fact that they really haven't played anybody, but his numbers show that he is Heisman material right now.
Yeah, and Oklahoma State's not even ranked, but they're 5-2. But like you said, they haven't played anybody. They're 2 losses. Central Michigan, that crazy
should have never happened.
Should never happen. But hey, guess what?
It did happen.
But guess what? You can't let them get in that position to win anyway. So, still their fault. But then also they lost to Baylor 35-24. But their victories were Kansas, but they let Kansas put 20 points up on them. Then they beat Iowa State by 7, which Iowa State's becoming a program you can't just walk over anymore. They let Texas put up 31 points on them. They won that game 49-31. Then they beat some no-name 61-7. So, not a huge competition, but I'm going to take Oklahoma State in this one. Like I said, because of the home field advantage and how loud Boone Pickens Stadium gets, and also because Mike Gundy is one of those coaches. Oklahoma State always seems to beat somebody. They never win their big games like Oklahoma or Texas or TCU, stuff like that. Those are the games where you can't really expect Oklahoma State to win if they're not at home. But with this West Virginia team, I think it's going to be their first huge test because of how loud Boone Pickens Stadium is. Okay, I'm going to tell y'all about the stadium if you haven't been. It's a very small, compact stadium.
Would you rate, what do you mean by small? Is it about the size of Louisiana Tech's?
No, I'm talking about the way it's formed.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Tech does not have a big stadium. It can hold maybe 70,000.
Yeah.
So you would say it holds about the same amount as Tech?
Probably, maybe about 80. But the way it's a horseshoe. It's a horseshoe.
Yeah.
But it's also a bowl because their field house is put at the end of the horseshoe, and you can hear it when you're in a stadium. The sound reflects off the wall and comes back into the stadium, and it's so freaking loud in there that even me, when I'm up in the sweet boxes up there sitting out on the outside of it listening, I can't even hear the person talking to me next to me.
Wow.
And for example, it was Kansas State versus Oklahoma State last year, and Oklahoma State made a game-winning field goal, and some dude I didn't even know, he was drunk out of his mind, but he comes up to me and gives me a hug, and he's hugging me with his mouth right next to my ear. I couldn't even hear a word he was saying. Wow. And so that's why I'm taking Oklahoma State. Give me the Pokes in this one, but I'm going to say it's a real close game because of how explosive West Virginia's offense is. But don't get me wrong, I think West Virginia, I'm not sure now, but they have a great possibility of winning Big 12, beating Oklahoma. We'll see when that gets there, but yeah, give me Oklahoma State.
Anyway, I'm right there with you on it being a close game. I think Oklahoma State will cover the 3.5 point underdog that they are. I think they'll get within 3 points. I'm saying this is going to be a 2-point win for the West Virginia Mountaineers. On the sole fact, yes, it's going to be extremely loud for the Mountaineers, but I believe their defense showed that they are ready to take that next step and stop an offense like Oklahoma State, and their offense is more experienced than it has been in the past couple of years, and I believe that they'll be able to move the ball down the field and make plays, and Skylar Howard will have a big key play in this game that will give them the victory. Yeah, I'm taking West Virginia to win this game by 2 points.
Jeez.
I'm taking them to win by 6.
Gosh. Okay. All right, let's go on to the next one.
And on to our next game. And as many would recall from last year, it was the punt that was shanked and brought back to the house as we have the number 2 Michigan Wolverines traveling to East Lansing to take on Michigan State.
Did you say shanked?
Yeah.
I thought it was a muffed punt.
Well, he tried to kick it, and he kicked it like 5 feet into the dude's hands.
Well, okay, I'm going to go ahead and start by saying this. I think Michigan deserves to be number 2. I love that they're ranked number 2 right now.
Oh, I do too.
And I remember when I saw Harbaugh was going to Michigan, I said, give him 2 years. They will be a championship football team.
I didn't think they would be this good right now. I was thinking they'd be at this level next year. Yeah. I said give him 3 years because of what he came into. Yeah. I did not think this year they would be doing what they're doing. But honestly, other than Penn State, I don't think Michigan has really played anybody. That's why they've been blowing out everybody. But I think that defense is for real. And I think that they have a very legitimate shot at going into Columbus at the end of the year and winning that game and being the Big Ten champions. But first, they need to take care of this ballgame.
Exactly. But there are 2 games after you said Penn State. There are 2 games. Well, one, obviously, they beat Wisconsin 14-7. But another, they won easily against Colorado. And Colorado is a team that's making strides to get so much better. They were in the top 25 at one point, I believe, this year. So they've played some people. But okay, if you keep up with college football somewhat, I'm sure you saw the pictures of. Oh, by the way, we're both wearing glasses now.
Oh, what I meant by they haven't played anybody, I meant they haven't played like a very elite team in the college football world.
Oh, right? Yeah, no, I understand what you mean.
Yeah, like obviously Wisconsin is a somebody, but not like the Ohio State level to where you can say they are for sure a definite top 2 team going to have a very strong possibility at winning the national championship.
Exactly. But if you're not an SEC team, if you're not an SEC
that's what's so hard about it. That's what I meant.
I think
I like that now.
Yeah, if you're not an SEC West team, no matter how good you are, you just haven't played anybody. So I don't take that into consideration most of the time. Let's say if it's like Boise State, I will. But with a team like Michigan, you're playing Wisconsin, Penn State. You're playing where, these big-time schools, yeah, they might not have been good lately, but they have this history what makes people want to go play for them.
Yeah.
There's great competition, great coaching. And it's the Big Ten, ACC. It's a Power 5 conference, so you can't say you haven't really played anybody unless you're an SEC West team where you play at least 4 big-name schools. So I feel like that's an unfair analogy sometimes, but I think
I agree with you. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
That's what we're accustomed to now. It has been since Florida beat Ohio State in the national championship back in, what was it, 06?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been like that.
To start the reign of the SEC.
Yeah.
But my thing to watch in this game, well, one, Michigan State might be 2-5, but this is in East Lansing, and this is a huge rivalry.
This might be the best 2-5 team I've ever seen.
Exactly. They are an experienced offense. They have
the only person they're missing is their quarterback from, what's his name?
Connor?
Yeah.
No,
Connor Cook.
Yeah, Connor Cook.
That's the only one they're missing.
Well, they got rid of Connor Cook. He's
in the pros.
He's in the pros now, but now they have O'Connor, who's played some, so he's experienced when Connor Cook was hurt. But then you also have William Speet on the Michigan side of the football, and I think it's going to be a great quarterback duel in this football matchup. But I think Michigan is going to prevail just because their defense is so much better than, I guess you can say, Michigan State, because one, they have Jabril Peppers, who people, I've heard his name get brought up.
In my eyes, he's
the Heisman runner.
He's the best player in college football right now, in my eyes.
I think he's got 3 offensive touchdowns, but he also has close to 40 tackles already.
Yeah.
On the year. This guy is a freak athlete. He's a returner. He's another
Tyrann
Mathieu, but who's the dude who played for Michigan?
Oh, Charles Woodson.
And the dude on College Game Day. Why am I drawing a blank?
Howard.
Yeah, Howard.
Deshaun Howard.
Yeah, Deshaun. Desmond Howard. It's freaking Desmond Howard. He's another Desmond Howard, a guy who can play on both sides of the ball, return the football.
Charles Woodson did that. Yeah,
exactly.
So it's another Charles Woodson, pretty much, and Desmond Howard.
Exactly. And they all go to Michigan. They're all Wolverines, and it's basically Red Dawn. You have Wolverines everywhere.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm taking Michigan because of their defense and because of yes, Michigan State's got Mark D'Antonio. Jeez.
Mark D'Antonio.
I was thinking of the NBA coach. But Jen Harbaugh, he's starting to show now that since he's gotten a team he wants to build, he's now becoming the coach we all thought he would be. If you see his tactics to keep football fun, I think everyone's talking about the new glasses he got. He's got those new hipster type glasses that he's wearing on the sidelines now, but people will think he's just doing it just to be goofy. No, he's doing this to keep. I'm pretty sure he did that to keep the spirits light around the locker room. He's the type of coach who doesn't care if his players make fun of him.
Yeah.
He wants them to have fun, and that's exactly what he's doing. That's why they're ranked number 2 in the country, and that's why I think they could beat Alabama in the national championship. So I got Michigan. I think Jabril Peppers is going to have a game. I think this might be the breakout game for Jabril Peppers just because it's a big rivalry and people will pay attention to this game.
Now, okay, I'm going with Michigan too, but for any of you gamblers out there, trust me on this and take Michigan State to get within 23.5 points. This is a rivalry game. You could throw the records out, rankings, all the numbers out the window because Michigan State is going to be hype and live for this game. Even though it's at 11 o'clock in the morning, that student section is going to be drunk. They're going to be rowdy. They're going to be ready to make noise.
So they're going to be college students.
Yes, and the crowd's going to be amped because the number 2 teams in the nation's coming in, and it's their biggest rival. And I have Michigan winning this game by only 7. I'm going to go ahead and say I think it's going to be that close of a football game.
All right. Hey. Okay.
I'm just saying, you gamblers out there, take Michigan State to get within 23.5, please.
Okay.
All right. On to our next one. We have the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Do you know what game this is, Dylan?
Florida versus the Bulldogs.
Yes, sir. In Jacksonville, Florida, it is. We have the number 14 Florida Gators taking on Georgia Bulldogs. Who you got, Dylan?
I'm going to take I think Kirby Smart is the next SEC head coach, like coordinator that was taken off to become a head coach and just be god awful. I just don't see him doing. He has all this talent in Georgia, and he's not doing anything with it. It's the East. I know Tennessee and Florida, and they're actually playing very well this year. But still, you're University of Georgia. You're a regular powerhouse, and I just don't see how Kirby Smart is 4-3 with Nick Chubb, Jacob Eason, who I think is one of the top 4 quarterbacks in the SEC as a freshman. And
I could see that.
He's 1,300 yards, nine touchdowns, 5 interceptions. They look like freshman numbers.
Yeah.
But again, he's a freshman playing in the SEC, but he's still winning football games. And it's not the coach winning football games; it's the defense winning football games. And Nick Chubb is not doing, I guess, as highly as anticipated. I know he's coming off an injury, but 586 yards, 5 touchdowns. But also the quarterback hype for Florida with Luke Del Rio. Is he even back?
I'm not sure.
I think he's back. He only got. I know he's missed a few games, but he's not living up to it. This is a tough one for me to choose. But I'm going to pick Florida because it is a neutral site game.
He's back,
and because it's a rivalry game, but it's one of those weird rivalry games, I guess you could say. I understand, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Michigan, Ohio State. I just never really seen this game as like a rivalry game. I don't know I guess I just don't pay too much attention to it. But I'm taking the Gators to snack on the Bulldogs pretty well, just because the coaching. Like I said, Kirby Smart. I just hadn't seen anything from him or the Bulldogs this year. I think letting go of Mark Richt was the biggest mistake they could ever do.
Oh yeah, that was the worst fire I had seen in college football in years. I can't name one right now that I've seen that's been a worse fire when a guy is bringing you consistently a 10-2 record consistently.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see how good of a coach he is by flipping the University of Miami around
right now they're on a little down slump
in 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, they're on a little down slump, but I think they're going to get a big win this weekend.
No, yeah, they're going to be fine. But I'm taking Florida.
Yeah, I'm going Florida too. I think just how like the Michigan State game, that Michigan State game, the line is huge. It's 23.5. This one is an 8-point favorite in Florida. I'll take Georgia to get within 8, but I got Florida winning the game. On the sole fact, I think that Florida's defense will prevail, and it's going to give Eason problems, and I don't think Chubb will be able to run the ball. And Florida's offense, even though it hasn't been spectacular, Luke Del Rio will get the ball moving a little bit, and Florida will put up some points, and the defense will come up big. I got Florida winning this game by 5.
Man, you're picking really close games this week, man.
This rivalry, it's somewhat rivalry week this week.
Yeah, but we'll see. All right, what's the next one?
We got the number 8 Baylor Bears traveling down to Austin to take on the Texas Longhorns.
Woo! All right. I hate the Texas Longhorns. Not a big fan of the Baylor Bears. But Charlie Strong is fired. He's gone now since they lost to Kansas State. There's no...
They fired him?
No, he's going to be fired.
Oh, I was like, I did not get that up there.
Yeah, no. He's going to be fired. He's going...
Oh, yeah.
After that loss to Kansas State, there's no way that they're going to keep him. They're going to fire... they're going to hire Tom Herman. And
I never thought that...
Texas will still be mediocre.
I think they should give him at least 2 more years.
Yeah, but they're not going to. It's University of Texas. They suck. They cannot wait. So, but then when they hire Tom Herman, it's going to be the exact same thing.
Yeah, he's down on a down slope right now.
Well, it's not that he's on a down slope. It's just he's only, 23 games?
Yeah.
Coaching. He's not really established. He's just got all these freakishly athletic players from around the Houston area. So, it's... he's a great recruiter. Is he really? He's just got people. He got people to stay in their hometown. Is it that hard? No, not really. So, I got I need to take the salt out of the shaker, put it to the side. don't like Texas. All right. But in all seriousness, I think that Baylor's going to win this game because they're still Baylor. They're not Baylor like they used to be. They don't have Art Briles. They don't have, I guess they don't have that swagger that they used to. They're 8-0. Maybe they're just not getting the publicity.
They're 6-0.
Oh, I'm sorry. They're ranked number 8. They're 6-0. They're not getting the publicity that they used to because of the scandal that happened.
Off-field issues.
Yeah, with, what was it, sexual harassment, the coach not really giving a crap about it, getting fired. And after all that, they just kind of stopped talking about him. But they still have Seth Russell, who I think is one of the best comeback injuries.
And then they got Shock Linwood, too.
Yeah, exactly. But Seth Russell is one of those players that come back from a deficit. He broke his neck last year. And it was scary because they weren't sure if he broke a vertebrae when he was playing. So they weren't even sure if he'd be able to, play football again or much less walk again for a little bit. They were thinking that. But he's coming back, and he's having a great year, a usual Baylor quarterback year.
101 for 177 for 1,470 yards, 16 TDs, and 4 interceptions. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And is Shock Linwood the guy who predicted himself to win the Heisman for Baylor?
I don't listen to nonsense, so I don't know.
I think a couple years ago, Shock Linwood, when he was a freshman or sophomore, predicted that he was going to win the Heisman that upcoming season, and I think he actually got injured. So I don't know. He's a great running back. Do not get me wrong. Just he's a little small, I guess you could say. So he's definitely not going to be a huge factor in the next level. I do not think. But I'm taking Baylor's offense over that Texas defense for sure.
Oh, it's going to be. I think it's going to be bad. Baylor's only a 3-point favorite, and I don't see how. I'm taking Baylor to win the game big. I've got Baylor win this one by 21.
Yeah, I'm fine with that because Texas's defense is just god awful.
And I think, Texas's defense is god awful. Baylor's going to be air raiding it all over them, but I don't think Texas's offense is going to be able to keep up with them.
So I know we're not talking about this game, but let's go ahead and say this too. If Oklahoma only lets Kansas put up 7 points or even shuts them out, I don't care if that says anything because our defense is still awful, as you can tell from that Texas Tech game, which I am I'm furious about that.
Okay, Dylan, I think Mike Stoops needs to be fired, but honestly, if you think about it, look who they were playing. They were playing one of the top air raid offenses in the nation. That's what I believe. I believe that those were two of the top air raid offenses in the game, and they were just both hitting on all cylinders.
All right. So let's go back to about 3 or 4 years ago whenever Mike Stoops got fired from Arizona, I believe. Was that what it was? Where did he get fired from?
Arizona.
And Bobby Boy, the head coach of OU, is sitting there saying, can't leave my brother out to dry. Hey, Brent Venables, could you kind of take a job somewhere else? Oh, yeah, sure. I'll go do it. That's not Ed Orgeron. That was Brent Venables. But he goes to Clemson and has that Clemson defense where it is now. Brent Venables is the top defensive coordinator in the entire country. Do you agree?
Yes.
And we let go of the top defensive coordinator in the country for Mike Stoops. Texas Tech has been one of the top air raid offenses for what, the past 5 to 10 years?
Decade.
Every year. And Brent Venables never let that happen. And
yes, I'll admit Oklahoma's secondary is god awful.
It's bad. But it's the thing. If they had a better coordinator, I think they could be a lot better.
I'll agree with that. Yeah,
because it's the University of Oklahoma.
They are,
and that's not me being biased.
Dylan, I'll point this out too. Oklahoma is very young on the defense.
Yes.
Very young on the defense.
In the secondary, at least.
Yes, in the secondary. Next year, their defense will be a lot better. It'll be more experienced.
Yeah, because Mike Stoops will be gone.
Hopefully. But if he's not, I still believe their defense will be a lot better.
Maybe Bob will be gone too. We don't know. All right, let's just go on to the next game. All right.
On to our next game. This one's floating under the radar with a lot of people, but it has a lot of history, and I thought we should talk about it. We got the Miami Hurricanes traveling to South Bend to take on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
All right, man, you go ahead and take this one first.
I'm actually going to take Notre Dame to get a victory here. with Deshaun Kaiser having a big day against that Miami defense. I don't have really much else to say. I just believe Deshaun Kaiser will have a big day and lead that team to victory.
Okay. Well, I'm going to disagree with you on there. I'm going to have to say I'm going to go with Miami just because I love what Mark Richt is doing there and how fast he's doing it and how the Hurricanes are buying into what he wants done there. And basically what he wants done there is to bring back the late 80s, early 90s swagger and the early 2000s swagger of the University of Miami when he played there. So I think that's what he wants. He wants to bring it back. And he was a quarterback for the University of Miami, and I think that's rubbing off on Brad Kaya. Brad Kaya's having the best year of his career. He will be there next year for his senior year. And, they have freaking Mark Walton, the running back for Miami, 600 yards, 8 touchdowns on 112 carries. He's, I guess you can say, the backbone of that offense, keeping the defenses on their heels, and Kaya spreads the ball out very well, what I saw when I watched the Florida State game. And, Notre Dame, I think Brian Kelly is going to get fired from Notre Dame after this year. Maybe if not, if he hasn't.
Yeah, he needs to, because
if you have a quarterback like Deshaun Kaiser with that much talent,
who some people are saying, some experts I've read have put him as the number 1 overall pick next year.
I
saw it. I'm just saying.
I don't.
Well, let's just move on to our next pick.
I have no idea, but I'm gonna pick Miami in that one just because I like what Mark Richt's doing and Brian Kelly's awful.
All right, on to our next game. We're gonna move down a little more. We're gonna save those other 2 next games for later. We're gonna go with the number 15 Auburn Tigers traveling to Oxford to take on the Ole Miss Rebels.
Well, everyone's all up on their high horse now for Auburn after Auburn's huge win. I'm not going to say it's a huge win because of the game, but I'm talking a huge win because of the points. A 56-3 win over the Arkansas Razorbacks, which I was completely shocked about because Arkansas's got a great offense, and how they shut them down like that, I was very, very surprised at how well Auburn's defense played. But then also, you can't really say it was all the Auburn's defense.
I think
because Arkansas did not show up to play.
I just think Arkansas had a very off day.
They did, but you also got Sean White, who for Auburn, I guess you can say Auburn's relying on their running game this year, big time. They have a bunch of quarterback problems out there in Auburn, but then you have Ole Miss coming off I don't want to say embarrassing loss, but an embarrassing performance against LSU, giving up 287 yards to Leonard Fournette, which is, I guess, is okay because it's Leonard Fournette. And as I said in my LSU podcast I did for 11:30 to Tiger, that you could just tell that Leonard Fournette was not hurt anymore. I don't know. It was very strange. But I'm going to take Ole Miss at home over Auburn because I think that Auburn game was, like you said, Arkansas just had an off night, and I don't think that they are I don't think they're as good as they looked. And Chad Kelly and Ole Miss, they're not as bad as they looked against LSU either. They are a great football team who hung in there with Alabama for the longest time, and Chad Kelly kept them in that football game. And Arkansas's quarterback is no Chad Kelly, who I believe is the best quarterback in the SEC, but he believes he's the best quarterback in the country. So I'm taking Ole Miss. Who do you got?
I got Ole Miss too. We both agree. Auburn, it was just a fluke game how Arkansas just did not come out and play the way they are capable of playing. And I believe the Auburn's defense is good. And I believe Chad Kelly will be able to move the ball and get Evan Ingram in the passing game involved. And I think Ole Miss's defense won't get run all over because Auburn doesn't have Leonard Fournette in the backfield. So give me Ole Miss to get within 4.5 points and come away with a victory, a 3-point victory at home.
All right.
And on to our next game, we have the number 18 Tennessee Volunteers traveling to Columbia, South Carolina to take on the Gamecocks.
So hard not to say Columbus, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew exactly what you were feeling there. But This is an easy pick for me. I'm taking I'm taking the Volunteers, and on the sole fact I'm taking the Volunteers because I think Tennessee's offense is very explosive. It's an SEC, so it doesn't really show as much. But they're going up against South Carolina, and that's definitely going to show because they're not a normal SEC team, especially with a new coach, who I think is the worst behind Kirby. Right in front of Kirby Smart is the worst coordinator hire to head coach.
Will Muschamp
is the worst head coach I've ever seen. Decent coordinator, awful head coach. As you could see whenever he was at Florida, he ran Florida into the ground, and he's the reason it's taking them so long to get back to where they were. So I'm taking Tennessee just on the sole fact of how explosive their offense is. I think this will be a pretty high-scoring game, but I think it's going to be not a huge blowout, but a definite significant win for Tennessee.
I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think. I think Tennessee, because South Carolina, they held their own against A&M till the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take Tennessee to win the game by 10, but it's going to be a lot closer, but I think Dobbs will be able to move the ball and get a victory. And we'll go ahead and move on to our next game where College Game Day is this week. We have the number 4 Washington Huskies. Everybody's on that hype train, but they're traveling to Salt Lake City to take on the Utah Utes, who are ranked 17th in the country.
All right. So remember when I told you about the I don't know if you were here when we were talking about it, but the running back for Utah. I'm sorry. Did you hear a word I said? I was not even talking into the microphone. Were you here whenever I was talking to you about Utah's running back Joe Williams, who apparently he retired from football because he just wasn't having any fun?
Wasn't he at USC?
I don't know.
Yes, he was. He was at USC. Then
I'm not completely sure about that, but I know after the first 2 or 3 games of the season, he retired from football. And after Utah's leading rusher tore their ACL, the coaches went to Williams and basically, I'm not going to say begged, but asked him, will you come back and play? And he accepted. He's back and playing now. But ever since he's come back, he has just killed it. Because when he came back against Oregon State, he had 179 yards and a touchdown. Then at UCLA last week, he was gone for 4 games. I'm not going to say it was a long leave, but last week he had 29 carries, 332 yards, and 4 touchdowns for the Utes. And he is a dog. If you watch him play, I watched a little bit of him last week on my way down to Texas, and I saw very explosive coming off the snap of the ball, hits his holes just right. But also, he reminds me of a smaller Fournette because he doesn't shy away from contact. He doesn't bulldoze over anybody, but he puts his shoulder down and gets an extra yard or 2. So I think that's going to be a huge problem for Washington. But like I said, I am on that Washington hype train with Chris Peterson. So I'm taking the Huskies just because I've seen what they can do, and I think the one game Washington's going to lose, I think is going to be against Washington State right now.
I agree with you on that, but I disagree with your pick this week. I am picking Utah on the sole fact of that player. What is his name again, Dylan?
Joe Williams.
Joe Williams. I love the story. I love the story how he came back and is dominating this year. I honestly am. I was on the Washington train until I looked at their schedule and seen who they played. And Stanford, they're overrated this year. They came in overrated, and even though they blew them out, it was at home. Oregon on the road, they're overrated too. Blew them out on the road, but the one decent team that they've played, even though their record really doesn't show it, is Arizona, and it was on the road. They only won the game by 7.
Okay. Well, I understand what you're saying there. I mean, then also this comes into the fact of what I was saying earlier. Not as much, but with the whole they haven't played anybody. But what I look at and what I think the people in the selection committee, I guess you can say, they haven't made their top 4 yet. So I don't know if they'll be in the college football top 4. But they're ranked number 4 right now in the polls. But what I see is their points scored to points allowed ratio. The least amount of points they've scored is 35 against Arizona at Arizona. So, see, that's a good amount of points. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's a good amount of points, but that's where I'm saying I think Utah's defense is better than Oregon State, Oregon, Stanford, Arizona, Idaho, Rutgers, Presbyterian. They're better than all those teams, and I believe that Utah will hold them under 35 points, and I believe Utah will put up over 40 on that defense.
Okay. Then also another thing I was going to bring up was the how many points Washington's defense has given up. And the most points they've given up is 28 against Arizona. But then they also, do you still agree with me Christian McCaffrey is still one of the best players in the country, even though he's not doing...
I just believe he doesn't have the offensive line.
Exactly. But still, Stanford has been a team on the rise and has been consistently good, and they held them to 6 points this year. And I don't care what you have to say about Stanford, it's still Stanford. And they put 44 points up on an always tough Stanford defense. So this is a very explosive team on both sides of the football to where you cannot, I guess, ignore. You can ignore, I guess you can say, you can't ignore who they've played, but you can't ignore the stats and the numbers on those games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I agree. I see what you're saying. But when I think of Washington, when people say that, that's what I look at.
Yeah.
So let's go on to the next one.
All right. In another very intriguing matchup, we had the undefeated number 7 Nebraska Cornhuskers traveling to Madison, Wisconsin to take on the number 11 Wisconsin Badgers.
All right, Jay, go ahead and go first.
I am going to take Wisconsin to win this game on the sole fact that I don't believe Nebraska is a top 10 team. Yes, they are undefeated, and they're deserving to be in the top 10 because they're undefeated and other teams have been lost. But I don't think they are a top 10 team, and I believe that crowd in Madison's going to be rowdy. It gave Ohio State fits, and I have Wisconsin beating Nebraska by 10.
Okay. See, this was a tough one for me because Wisconsin's kind of on a little bit of a slump right now. And I guess you could say, I would say that Nebraska is on peaking, I guess you could say. And Tommy Armstrong, quarterback for the Huskers, definitely having a great year, a very under the radar year. No one's hearing about him. And but then you also have Chris Clement, the running back for Wisconsin. 617 yards, 6 touchdowns.
Corey Clement.
What did I say?
Chris.
Oh, same thing. But I'm gonna take Nebraska. I'm gonna take
I like that pick. It's just not what I was thinking.
I guess it would be considered an upset, even though there's 7, but it's in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin is a 9-point favorite, so yes, it would be considered an upset.
If it was at Lambeau, I would say Wisconsin, just because of how well they played in Lambeau against LSU. But no, give me Nebraska because I know I say this every week, but it's just a gut feeling. I have no idea why, but I'm picking. Just a gut feeling. I think Cornhuskers will win.
And all right, on to our next game, which is the game of the week to me. We had the number 3 Clemson Tigers traveling to Tallahassee to take on the number 12 Florida State Seminoles.
All right, you go first. I'll let you pick this one.
Oh, man, I wanted you to go first.
Go ahead, kid.
Oh, this is such a toss-up to me, even though Florida State is somewhat down this year. Where's a coin? I'm going to flip one. I'm kidding. I am going to take the Florida State Seminoles to win this ball game. I'm taking Florida State on the sole fact that it's in Tallahassee, night game. The Florida State crowd just getting into it. I believe that they're going to get very loud, and Sean Watson in that offense is going to get confused. And Dalvin Cook is in for a big game like he had last year against Clemson.
Okay.
I believe that they're going to be able to move the ball, and I got Florida State winning this game.
All right, we're not so
3.
fast, my friend. The same point I brought up about Brent Venables still sticks with me right now. I think that a freshman quarterback, no matter how good DeAndre Francois is playing, he's playing really good for a freshman. I think probably one of the top freshmen this year. And you see how he's playing, but then you put up a defensive coordinator like Brent Venables on him. This is the same guy who's able to basically contain Baker Mayfield, who no one could do last year. And I just don't see how this Clemson defense, unless they just have an off night, I say Florida State wins. But I'm taking Clemson. I think this is going to be a great defensive game. I don't think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I don't think it's going to be a flashy game. I think it's going to be a grinded out. There'll probably be about 30 to 28 points scored on both sides, but it's going to be a defensive fight, though, because I think the defensive line for Florida State definitely outweighs the defensive line for Clemson. But then you put the linebacker set and the secondary for Clemson against Florida State, and they overpower that. And then basically the same thing on you got the run game for Florida State. Clemson doesn't have a great run game. Then you have Watson, who I think is a better quarterback than Francois, of course, right now because he's a junior versus a freshman. But again, like you said, it's a toss-up. But I think it's I think Brent Venables is going to be the difference maker.
Another key
preparing
factor
for Dalvin Cook.
Another key factor why I picked Florida State to win this game. Clemson hasn't beaten Florida State the past 4 times they played in Tallahassee.
So?
History always repeats itself, baby.
And all good things must come to an end.
I'm taking the history will repeat itself.
All right, whatever. Is that our last game?
Yes, it is.
I hate you. All right. So, thanks, man. Thanks for coming. I love doing it with you.
It's always a pleasure, man.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching. Like our new Facebook page, 1130 The Tiger Dash KWKH. We are basically revamping that thing, making it more sports oriented, and just basically taking control over our own Facebook page because, fight the man. You know what they say. But thank you all for watching, and y'all have a great day, and God bless.
See y'all.